It is 1 o'clock in the afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. The Titans having their post-draft weekend press conference in just a few moments. And I'm going to go ahead and let you get there. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door, 615-737-1045. There's a lot to recap, but first we're going to go and listen to Titans President of Football Operations Chad Brinker and GM Mike Bergonzi address reporters at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park to recap the 2025 NFL Draft.
Comment on any of the undrafted free agents at this time. We're still working through a lot of things. They'll be available to you here at rookie minicamp, so you get plenty of time to talk to those guys and learn about them as well. They got to go through a lot still to get, we got physicals and signing contracts, so we're just not going to comment on them at this time. Also, you may be wondering with a new regime change that you're wondering about staff changes. We're still working through all that, so we don't have anything to comment regarding the staff at this time as well. But we are working through those things. But speaking of the staff, I thought the group did an outstanding job. It's been a long 3 months. We spent a lot of time in what we call the cave together, watching a lot of tape. This is a new process. A lot of people weren't familiar with it. It's rigorous. It can be tiring. It's a lot of late nights. And I really commend Mike Bergonzi and his staff for the work that they put in and what they have done. And I think it showed over the weekend. Mike, he led this draft process. And this is the first time I've worked with Mike, and we've worked together. And it just felt like we've been working together for many years. It was really seamless. It was good dialogue throughout. I think you can go into a draft in peace, knowing when you put the work in on the front end, and you're able to, like a good quarterback does, when you get thrown something at you weren't expecting, you have all that training in your background to adjust and try to make the right decision in a split second. And I saw some of that from Mike over the weekend as well, and I just was really impressed with him. And I think you all had an opportunity to talk to Dave and Reggie, and also our two national scouts, Sam and Mike, and hopefully you got a little bit of a glimpse of what our staff looks like, and hopefully you're impressed with them, because this is a really good group that works really well together. We went into this season, I think we had 5 draft picks, and by the end of the draft, we ended up with 9 players. 8 of those 9 came from the Power 4 schools, and we're just really excited about what we were able to add over the weekend. It's important to us that we were going to build this thing with a strong foundation, and I think it was well documented on the character of these individuals that we brought into this football team. Now, it's going to be upon them. They got to come in here. The NFL is a tough business, and we expect them to come in and learn how to be a pro and be the guys that we think they can be to really help change the culture around here. And I know that takes some time, but it starts with getting really good football players in here who are also really good people. So we're excited about the guys we drafted. We'll go ahead and turn the questions over to you all, and whoever you want to talk about, we'll hit on all those for you, both Mike and I. Thank you.
Were there some kind of broad themes you think through this entire group, Chad? I know you mentioned character. Are there some other characteristics that sort of define this group as a whole, do you think?
Yeah, big, fast, tough football players who love winning more than anything else. I mean, that's a Titan. I really want, I think over time, as you see how this unfolds, you might be able to draft them for us ahead of time, because you're going to see, like, oh, that looks like a Titan. There's definitely a DNA we're looking for in our players, and that's I think everybody wants that, but it's hard to find. You got to do a lot of work, and hopefully, those guys that we're bringing in here will prove us right.
Chad, Mike, a lot of developmental. You said everybody needs development. Obviously, they do. You typically expect first, second, third round picks to contribute quickly. On the development front, you guys have talked about patience and discipline. How do you kind of blend those things together? What are you expecting quickly in terms of guys helping this team win?
I mean, our expectation is these guys come in and compete right away, no matter what position it is here. I think it's important they come in here with the right mindset, which they will. I think that was a big part of, the traits and characteristics that we were looking for. Smart, tough, competitive guys, and usually that will help in the developmental part. Because like I said, all these players need to get better. They need to develop. But if you have those traits, usually that takes you over the edge to really compete and get better. So that's a big part of it. Like all these guys are going to have to develop though. But when you have those high-end character traits, the work ethic that they put in, the time, weight room, film study, time in the film room, I think that helps them develop.
What's that mean about the expectations for the coaching staff?
Yeah, I mean, like we said, we want to develop these guys. So the expectation is that, we have a vision for these players. I think that was a big part of it, coming in and getting the coaches involved in the process. There's a vision for these players. They know where they need to get better. So, we have a great coaching staff here. So, I have full confidence in them that they're gonna develop these guys into players that we think they can be.
Mike, knowing that development is so important and you being new to this coaching staff, how did you go about really getting familiar with the traits and the things that they like? And then Chad, how did you help Mike in that process?
So, the first thing when I got in here, when we were meeting with the college scouts is, actually during the lunch break, I would meet with each position group every day, and that went on for about 2 weeks. And really just to go over the scheme, the characteristics, and the traits that they look for in each player, because you have to have a vision for the player, how they're going to fit into the scheme, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams. We went through that, and as we went through the evaluation of these players, that's a big part of it. Discussing these players where they need to elevate and get better in their game. So working hand in hand with the coaching staff is a big part of this process, just to know what plays in our offense, defense, and special teams, and then what do we have to do to develop these guys to moving forward.
Like you guys were sitting there.
1 second. Chad, how did you help Mike through that process?
Yeah, obviously, Mike led this entire process, and that's why we hired Mike to lead the draft, free agency, building the roster, and I have complete trust in him. And how I helped. There's a lot of other people in this building that I gotta care for and be there, and other departments that got to run. So one of the nice things about this setup was that while they were in the draft room, there were times where I had to get pulled away for various meetings for an hour or two, and I would come back and Mike would say, hey, we looked at these 5 players, but you really need to focus on these 3. So it really helped my workload to be able to know what to focus on and have the full trust in Mike that I believe in him, and he knows what he's a really good evaluator, and the humility that he has is just tremendous, and it helped me still be involved in the process, but ultimately, my trust is in Mike. I mean, I think he's outstanding, and I'm glad we have him.
Chad, we talk about with Dave and Reggie, bringing them in. Some people might not want too many cooks in the kitchen, so to speak, but I'm curious why you felt like that was the best thing. And Mike, how did that work in practice and helping you put together this class?
Yeah, you can never have enough good people, and if this structure works when you have the right people. And Reggie and I worked together up in Green Bay. I think you all met Reggie. I mean, how can you not like Reggie? Reggie's he's the best. Tremendous evaluator, and all he cares about the team. He cares about winning. Just really good as a mentor for young scouts too. And then Dave, I've known for a long time in this league, and I know Mike and Dave have been good friends for a long time. And Dave has done a lot of good things in this league over the years. And he's another guy. He's from Ohio. Grew up in Cleveland. I'm from Ohio. We had a lot of familiar connections, and it just clicks. I don't really know how to explain it. It's just working, and I think it's because it's, I talk about it a lot. High impact, low ego. That's what we want. We want people with low ego, but we expect you got to perform when you're in this business, and we know how hard it can be. So, I thought it worked really well. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, like echo some of the stuff that Chad said. I've known Dave for a long time in this league, and I've known Reggie. Of course, Chad worked with Reggie, and that's the whole idea, is to get really good people in here that are selfless, low ego people, and they certainly fit that. And they had a lot of experience in this league, and we had some great conversations, during the draft and the meetings. We'd be in there all day, all night sometimes, late into the night, watching tape. And they've been great for me. Chad has, Reggie and Dave, the whole support system here has been great. I throw John Salge in there too. He was in the meetings with us a lot there too. So you can't have enough good people in the room that are really good evaluators, and that's what they are.
A lot of these draft picks were captains, leaders on their team. Was that not by accident, I'm assuming? How much you hoping they can help change the culture around here?
Yeah, like we said, those are the type of people we're trying to bring in here, high character people. Some of them were captains on teams, but that helps elevate the culture in here. When those people come in here and they work, there's a standard that we want to set here in this organization in terms of work ethic, accountability, being a good teammate, and all those guys check the box there. And I think, you look back to some of the free agents we brought in too. Like I said, if you keep on stacking those type of players in the locker room, that's going to change the culture.
Mike, how early in the process did you kind of land on favoring the developmental types over maybe some pro-ready types? And can you kind of talk through why favoring one over the other?
Well, like I said, they all have developmental, things that they have to go through here. But then once you start getting into the mid to later rounds and some of these guys, you're looking at some traits, speed at the receiver position with Ellick and DK, and Marcus Harris is a guy that played really one big year of football at Cal. But you saw the traits on film, the quick twitch athlete that can develop. And the same thing with Mullings too. You're looking at a guy that played linebacker for 2 years when he first came in, and really last year was really his first really workload of carrying the football. But you saw a big body there that runs hard, and you saw a lot of upside with him, and we were able to get him later on the 6th.
You guys needed pass catchers coming into this draft. What did you guys identify in the draft that led you to wait till day 3? Then you found 3 there and 25 picks, and then also Tyler Lockett's addition. What does that do?
Yes. You're looking at the value of the board for these guys, and where we took Chim and Ellick at that point. We were looking for young guys with some speed, and they both fit that. Chim's a guy that has return ability as well. He's done punt returns, he's done kick returns. Ellick's a big body receiver, ex-receiver that's strong, physical at the catch point. He gives a good catch radius for the quarterback. So those are some of the things that we were looking at with those two guys when we took them.
DK maybe open up the field for you, I guess, with that speed he has. What does that do not only for him but maybe for some of the others?
I'm sorry, who is it?
DK.
Yeah, he certainly has speed to stretch the field. And he's competitive downfield. He's smart, versatile. He can line up in a bunch of different spots on offense. And the one thing that we liked about him is just his competitiveness after the catch as well. So you got a guy that's, smart, tough, dependable, can line up, and he also has a big catch radius too. So those are the things we liked about him. And then going back to Tyler too, Lockett, he's a big addition for us. He's a veteran wide receiver that, really, he's dependable, can get open. He's got great instincts, and he's going to be great for this locker room as well.
So a quick follow on DK. He had the 1 year that was kind of a sort of a down year productive-wise in between two. Any reason for that? Or
I think he was just going. He had those few years at Wisconsin and then came in. He's one of those guys that just got better every year. You watched him on tape, from Wisconsin to Florida, and those are the intangibles that we look for. Guys that continue to get better.
Do those
skill position players, do you think about Cam Ward's development with them at all? Just how those two can kind of factor into each other?
Yeah, anytime you get some young receivers in here and working with the quarterback, and really the whole quarterback room, they have to develop, and they have to develop a rapport in here. So we're trying to get young guys in here that can develop and grow as we build this roster.
I guess also with the fit too, just maybe how those receivers fit with Cam's play style.
Yeah, well, going back to Lockett, he's a guy that a lot of the extended plays that Cam has, or any of these quarterbacks really, when they work outside the pocket. Tyler's one of those guys that you can just find those open areas in those scramble drills, and you saw that over the years with Russell as well. DK is a guy that can stretch the field. Alex is a bigger receiver. He's productive in the red zone, big catch radius, and then Gunnar Helm that we took as well too. Big savvy route runner. Good in the red zone. Also, provides a quarterback a big catch radius as well, and he's got good run after the catch too.
There were a handful of guys in that third round that came off the board at receiver. You guys were sitting at 82. Was there any consideration or effort made to maybe moving up 4 guys in that bunch that came off before you?
No, at that point we felt good where we were at. There were a couple of receivers on the board, I think, at that time that might have got taken right before, but we felt good about there was probably 3 or 4 players at that point. We were at pick 82, I believe it was, that we felt good about taking.
To that point, how big of a value add was Kevin Winston to be able to find him in the third?
Yeah, it was a big value because really, before, the injury, he was, at the top of the second round for us. He's one of the top safeties in the draft. He's going to be fine. He had the injury early on in the season. And we were fortunate enough to get him there at that spot.
What's your guys' philosophy on taking guys coming off of injury, whether it be drafting or free agency, and working them back in?
Yeah, you just have to look at the whole history of the medical history of the player. Injuries are a part of the game. These guys that are young, and then that's why we have full confidence in our training staff and our medical staff that we work through these meetings and talk about these players and injuries moving forward. And that's why, we'll make the best decision based on, the information that we get, and we felt comfortable taking those guys.
Work Slater at guard at the start, or do you try to transition into some of the center as well?
He can do both. We saw him do a little bit of it at Sac State and at the Senior Bowl when I was there. He did both. So I think he'll take reps at both guard and center.
I think DK on paper is ahead of the line as your return option.
Yeah, he can do that. He'll get thrown in the mix there as a punt returner and a kick returner. He's productive at Florida doing that. He's one of those guys that just catches it and gets upfield. And that's what you like about him, and he's got speed as well.
I guess the market for maybe the interest in Will during the draft and just him still being on roster, what does that say about his value with the team?
It's a lot of value. I think, there's going to be competition in every room, and he elevates the competition in that room. That's what we're trying to do here as we get into training camp, is have the best 90-man roster, best competition in every room, and Will certainly provides that.
Was there an attempt to move him during the draft?
It was not.
I guess that's kind of my question is quarterback position. How you feel like you are with 4 guys in the room? How much you looking forward to just seeing how things kind of play out as we get closer to the season?
Yeah, that'll it's a great room we have right now with those 4 guys. And that'll be up to Brian and his staff in terms of reps and as we go through the off season and get into training camp. But we'll take it step by step here, and that'll be up to Brian in terms of who takes what reps at some point. So we're not going to name any starters here though that right now here in the off season.
We talked about it a little bit earlier with Mullings, but just the lack of tread on the tires and for what you guys were looking to add at the running back position, how much of a factor was that? And I guess how much more difficult did it make an evaluation of a player with a limited sample size?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly jumped off the tape when I watched him in the fall. He provides a different back in the room that we have right now. He's 6 foot, 230-pound back. Like I said, he was a former linebacker, and it's impressive, the way he just kind of hits the hole and gets upfield. He's physical. and he'll provide us that short yardage, 4-minute type back. Yeah.
You've talked about a plan for a rookie quarterback. What is that plan in terms of I know you work with Brian on that, but what is the plan in terms of reps and alignment and work?
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussions with Brian about that, and I think as we head into the off season here, like I said, it's going to be a competition, and these guys are going to get equal amount of reps right at the beginning, and they'll separate themselves here as we head into training camp. But the idea here is to have competition in the room, and Brian and his staff, as we go through the off season, get into training camp, I'm sure the reps will change. At some point, when people separate themselves.
I know Cam, he had lobbied for Restrepo throughout the draft, but was there a lot of dialogue back and forth with him about some of the other guys? Because it seemed like, as soon as they were picked, he's reaching out to them. Some, like, you were on the phone with them and he's calling them, those types of things.
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of teammate Cam is, and that's everything we heard about him through the process is that, he's one of the guys, and, I think that's why a lot of his teammates gravitate towards him. Yeah, he was tweeting right at him right after that. But that just shows you his leadership, his team ability. That's why guys gravitate towards him.
As you were going through the process of evaluating him and just getting background, what was that relationship like? The dialogue that you had with his father, Calvin, like how was that? Like how much input did he have?
Yeah, the first time we actually met his parents were before the pro day at the dinner. First time I really sat down and talked with him, and it was great. I mean, he has a great family. Just learning about him growing up and the dad always being there for him, pushing him, and then being at his games over the years, which was tremendous. He never missed a college game that he had. And just the support system that he has there with his parents is impressive.
Do you guys know how he was so quick on the draw of reaching out to these people? Was he in the room with you guys during draft day, or was he just quick to recognize this?
He was actually texting me, but yeah. Yeah, he's on it pretty quick. Yeah.
How do you think he'll do as far as he has been a great leader throughout his career. Then he steps into now a locker room with guys who are older than him. What's that transition like from y'all's experience for a young guy coming in, trying to find his way with older guys around him?
A lot of that was we talked with him before the draft. He's got great awareness in terms of where he's at. And he knows that, stepping into an NFL locker room, he's going to have to earn the respect of everybody in that locker room. And, just first building relationships with everyone, on the team is a big part of it. But that's one of the special things about him that we kind of learned through the process is that he has great awareness. And I think he knows that he has to earn the respect of everyone here.
Helm, did you see anything in particular that kind of accounted for his huge year? Didn't do too much the first 3 years there in terms of production, but what were some of the things he did particularly well that final year? Helm?
Helm. Yeah, he was another guy that just continually got better, too. He was a former receiver in high school that made the transition to tight end at Texas. And I think that was part of the, you're looking for these guys that continue to get better. Like I mentioned with DK and with Helm, they got better every year. And he had a big season last year. Those are the traits that you look for, and that's what you hope to continue here when they get to the league.
Mike, when you look at these 9 draft picks you ended up with, beyond Cam, how much did you feel like, okay, we got our guy at this spot versus maybe we feel good about taking a shot on potential here?
Yeah, I mean, we built a front board that consisted of about 169 players on the front board, and we felt good about all those guys in certain spots. So as we were, continually going through the draft, we felt good about every guy that we took at that spot. And that's, you never know how they're going to fall off the board. And usually when you get to the 3rd round, every team has a little bit of a different draft board. But we felt pretty good even heading into the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds that we still had guys on the board that that we wanted to add to the roster.
Chad, you alluded to it off.
Okay, hold on. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know you're not talking about undrafted free agents in particular, but throughout this kind of process, has it been an attractive destination for some of those guys, this team?
Yeah, I think so. I think Nashville is an attractive place, and I also think with how the draft went over the weekend, I'm sure that made it attractive to some guys as well. But this is a good place to live. It's a good organization, and Brian Callahan being our head coach, he's got a lot of relationships out there too, and it's an exciting place to be. And although I know we got a lot of work to do.
Chad, you alluded to it a bit off the top, but you've talked even before Mike got here about the importance of growing your draft assets.
Yeah.
To go into the weekend and end up with 9 picks, to add a day 2 pick, to trade up later and not give up a pick to do that, do you feel like you sort of executed the game plan, so to speak, as well as you could have?
Yeah, I think I was trying to get more. I just couldn't get anybody to get a trade partner there. But yeah, that was important to us. It was well documented. We're not bashful about it. We understand when you're a draft and develop team that you build the core of your roster through the draft, so you want to get as many of those picks as you can possibly get. And to, like I said in the beginning, going from where we started the season at 5 to finishing with 9, and even in that draft, to be able to get that third round pick was a big deal to get that. And then also making the trade up to get a receiver we really wanted, and not lose a pick in the process was really important. But I think, moving forward, you're going to continue to see that as we build this team. You start having success. I'd like to get in the position where we get into the comp picks where we got so many good players, we can't pay them all, and some of them have to leave and they get paid by somebody else, and then we get a comp pick in return. And that's when you become one of those elite franchises.
As you get guys back in the building, where is Traylon Burks in this process? How is he coming along?
Yeah, Traylon's, he's rehabbing, he's working, and he's trying to get back.
I'm assuming the 5th-year option is not going to be picked up, correct?
We're still discussing all that, but yeah, probably not.
You guys have talked patience and discipline so much. Is there ever a moment through this thing with Amy where you're saying, hey, if Femi has played 10 games at this position, Winston's coming off an injury, a lot of these guys we have really good forecasts on, but it's not like we're dropping people into the roster who are going to transform this thing in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with Amy since January, and I'll just say this: Amy's fully on board with the plan, and she wants to become one of the elite franchises of the league. She believes in what we're doing. I really appreciate her and her support, and how she's really empowered us to do our jobs. I mean, I'm speaking on her behalf right now. We hired Mike to lead that process, particularly building this football team. I think she really believes in what we're doing, and we want to make her proud. So we're working hard to do that.
We envision that. So we talked to you since, I guess, Mustafa, Hamas, and Udo all were signed. Where do you envision those guys kind of starting off competing?
Those are veteran guys that have all lined up and played and started games. So, we felt like there are 3 players in that room that can help and provide competition and depth here through training camp. And like I said, they've all played before. They're all good football character guys too. They're going to add a lot to that room.
Chad.
Thank you. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I know.
All right, there's a lot to break down, talk about this draft class. I got Blaine Bishop across from me. We're going to get his thoughts on everything that has happened over the weekend. You're going to hear from me talking about all these prospects. We got a lot to cover. New franchise going forward. They have a new look. That was a tone-setting draft. You heard about the tone they were trying to set. We'll break it all down when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 is the number. We want to hear your thoughts on the Titans draft class. And I guess just real quick, because we had the press conference and everything, they really did set a certain tone. Now, the staff, I guess I should say the scouting staff, the scouting department and general manager and stuff, because they really did get all players that are known for their character. And what I mean by that is really just their football character. All these guys, from what we are privy to, I mean, obviously we're not inside their heads or their hearts, but from what we're privy to, every one of these people love football. They're willing to play whatever you need them to play. I mean, you got a couple of guys that have switched positions. Talking about Femi Oladejo, moved from linebacker to edge. And then you got Kal-El Mullings from Michigan, who switched from linebacker to running back. So guys who just want to play football and love football. So I do think that is a good precedent for this team. And I think Brinker said it best at the top of the press conference. He says, you guys now should be able to figure out, even before we get to the draft, that guy is a Tennessee Titan. And I'm starting to get there. I'm not all the way there, but I'm starting to get there on that.
Yeah, well, just first and foremost, just evaluating what they did in the draft. They got 6 picks in the top 136. Which was cool, and they traded up and down and all around, and so it's yet to be determined. The scouting department to prove that they were right about these players. Now they're all name guy. I mean, the back of their jerseys is their name, but at the same time, they're going to have to prove something. So we can sit here and say that guy was a good college player. We don't know if he's going to be a real good player, but the characteristics he's talking about is that they're big, they're fast, they're tough, they're smart. Their IQ acumen, I think, is very vital. And people say, well, what does that really mean? Well, we got now in the National Football League players that are super duper athletes, but aren't smart football players. Yeah. They don't understand the game. And so I think he did that. I think they did that, as well as their work ethic. And I've always said this, they should be drafting all guys that are captains. I've always said that. Yeah. So, that kind of tells you about who they are and their characteristics of what they can become. So I think they did what you're supposed to do when you're building foundational pieces, and based off of what the draft was providing them. And that is, there weren't a lot of blue chippers. So we always talked about that the meat of the draft was going to be 3rd through 5th, and those guys can come in and contribute, whether it's a starter, a backup role, a guy who plays if someone gets injured. These guys are all going to be contributors at some point in time, hopefully, sooner than later. So what does that actually mean in the whole totality of this? Well, the coaching staff must develop them offensively and defensively. So that will be the interesting part, how fast they catch on and get up to speed. You would hope with those characteristics that they will. I don't know if we have any super duper star guys. I think we got some guys who can contribute and some guys who maybe can start. Right. If they get on, when end of the training camp is over, a lot of football still to be played at that point, and see if they can, play at the NFL level. But it's all really a guessing game. And guess what? All this doesn't matter what all me and you just said, right? Right. Because they get the staff. Until they get there. But no, until what? Cam Ward develops. Yeah. All else not. He's the number 1 pick. If all else fails, if he develops, then the team will rise, and they will continue to, develop players and get better each and every year. So at the end of the day, the pressure is really on how they develop Cam Ward.
And we're going to talk a lot about that today, because I do want to talk about the development, the grocery shopping as they done. Now the chefs in the kitchen have to start cooking with these ingredients. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about all that when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door. 615-737-1045 is the number. We want to hear from you. Talk about this Tennessee Titans draft class. And I guess it comes down to now the staff and the players, right? Because, I mean, we can say it comes down to the staff, but really it's just as on the players to develop and perform and take this thing seriously. And that's because that's what they were drafted as, right? He said, these are guys that we expect to be competing, expect to be in the film room, expect to be all ball all day is essentially what they were saying. Because they specifically mentioned these are guys, big, fast, tough football players who want to win more than anything else. To compete, the expectation is to compete right away. They have the right mindset, and I think they will. High-end character traits, work ethic, weight room, film study, all that to say it's still up to the staff. Staff's going to play a big part in developing these players, and that's where my hang-up can be a little bit about this draft class and the expectations for these rookies in year one, because I don't really know if this staff can develop. And not to say that maybe there aren't players they have developed elsewhere here and there, but we have yet to see them develop players that were there last year. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, J.C. Latham was okay. He wasn't a seventh-round pick. Or, sorry, 7th overall pick performance, but he was pretty good. But
and then they ended up moving him.
And now they've ended up moving him. So where can we point to that says, well, they developed this guy in their first year as a staff, so now they're about to take another crop of first-year players. Where am I supposed to find the faith that they can develop these players? And I guess that's the question that I have.
Well, Brownlee, we could say developed. I thought they did. Well, he's a 5th-round pick.
Yeah.
I thought Skoronski got better than the previous year.
Okay.
So I don't know, how you translate all of that. That wasn't the guys that drafted him. But that's always going to be a question. But when you talk about the coaching staff and development, it also is on the players too. So it's really hard to, differentiate. You want to say these characteristics, smart football players and hardworking captains, that they're going to take pride in what they do and they're going to be pros right off the bat immediately. And that doesn't mean it translates into great production. But what it will guarantee you is they will be solid players. And I think that's what this draft really was for me. Foundational pieces of solid, really good football players, maybe no superstars, Pro Bowl type players, but good players. And, we had a lot of good players for a long time until we got the freak. So I can I can relate to all of this and say, okay, if you're thinking in a 3-year window and you keep doing this and then get you some superstars along the way, that's how you build a team. So I think that's what they're thinking. Make sure that the owner is aware that that's where we're going. I think she is. And that's why they keep talking about this 2 or 3 year window, because it's going to take a minute. And, with free agency too. But
then also, does that say anything to this particular staff's job security? Maybe it's a little bit more secure than we thought. Or because, obviously you can't come in and win 3 games again. You probably can't win 4 games. Or is it not even tied to the wins? It's really tied to how good does Cam Ward look this year?
Absolutely. That's what I was, hinting at. Everything really hinges on Cam Ward and his development. So that's right in the wheelhouse of the head coach. So we will see, as long as we see improvement in development each and every week. He's not going to be, a finished product right off the bat. So, but you want to see some of the skill sets that you saw in college and some of the accuracy and some of the, the wiggle and pocket awareness that he showed in college. You want to see that at the pro level and see how much it impacts him as a player. Ball security will be something I hope that they really work with him on this. The fumbles are really the things that really stood out. There was at times he would do some things that he could get away with. I don't know if he'll be able to do that at the pro level, but his accuracy was definitely there. So he's got some tools and he's got some confidence. He's got the leadership skills. And first and foremost, we must find out what's in between his head.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's a guy that gets inside of his own head, but that's yet to be proven. We can all guess and they can say that. But
and we can see all the videos that make us think that, right?
No
all
doubt,
those
no
social
doubt.
videos.
But we don't know until you start
Yeah.
saying, whoa, this is different. These dudes are faster. Oh, that D tackle is stronger. I didn't break that tackle. I went down like a butterfly. I mean, you know, so it's yet to be determined, but it's all there.
Getting hit by an NFL player may feel a little bit different.
It's going to be different. So we're going to see if he continues to grow and rise like he's done at every level and every stop he's been. So that's, you can't determine that. That's where the luck, and then at some point, you know, is involved in this, because when you're scouting players, you just don't know how much they'll continue to rise, or have they already peaked at where they will be as athletes.
Right. Well, I mean, I think this is a good point. A couple of people have said this, but Pat the Barber was the last one that I saw say it over on the F&M Bank chat on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live, wherever you watch on TV. These players and the way that this roster is constructed, we'll find out a lot. We'll have our answer and find out a lot about what this staff can and can't do within their responsibilities.
Yeah.
Because it's set up for that.
They're going to get their opportunities.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. So.
I look at you were talking about none of these really being superstar prospects on the surface.
Outside of the quarterback.
On the surface, yeah, outside quarterback. And I thought that was a really good way to put it, because I listed a couple of the pro comps for some of these players. I'm not a big comps guy, but, you know.
That's what you do.
Some people want them. And so I thought, like, for Femi Oladejo, it was Dorrance Armstrong. Great pro, but not a superstar guy, right? Like, I mean, got a second contract, got paid like a middle tier, maybe slightly upper tier free agent. But that's a good player, right? I mean, like, that's a good, solid player. I go to Todd McShay said Chimere DK was a lot like Darius Slayton. Well, Darius Slayton, his rookie year, had 700 yards and 9 touchdowns, and he was drafted in the 5th round. He's averaged about 700 to 600 every season. That's a good player to have.
A faster NPF.
Yeah.
I mean, or NWI. I'm sorry.
I mean, that's a good player to have.
Yep.
Elic Iomanner. This is.
I'll let you say that. I'm gonna just say Elic from Stanford.
Iomanner was James Jones, and a lot of people may not know James Jones. I mean, but James Jones was a solid wide receiver, right, for Green Bay for a long time. And Kyle Mullins was Rashad Jennings, who played for the Jaguars for a short time. He averaged 749 yards and 4 touchdowns a season in a rotational role. If those guys turn out to be those guys, that's good foundational pieces. But we got to make sure they get there. Now, it doesn't mean that's where it stops for these players. But if they can rise above those, that's even better. But it's going to take a little bit for maybe some of these players to do it. But you kind of hope, hey, I'm looking at Chimere DK and I'm saying, if I can get a Darius Slayton rookie year out of him this year, holy crap, that changes the whole outlook of this team. But we don't know if he's going to get there. Tyke Tolbert is probably the guy and Randy Jordan, the running backs coach. Tyke Tolbert, the wide receivers coach, probably have the most skins on their wall in terms of developing players. Now we're going to see, right? We're at least going to see about Tyke Tolbert.
Coding too.
And Ben Bloom. So we're going to see from Tyke Tolbert. You got 2 priority picks, 4th, and they traded up for another 4th to get Iomanner. So we got DK and Iomanner, both 4th-round picks. And then you're going to have an undrafted free agent that was predicted to go in the top 110 picks, Xavier Restrepo out of Miami. Now we're going to see, hey, these guys aren't Jaquan Jackson. These guys are really, really ready wide receivers. Now we're going to see what you can do with these players. And what can Cam Ward do to elevate everybody's game? Because he's the #1 overall pick. He doesn't have to elevate him to elite status, but he's got to start elevating. That also falls in line with Brian Callahan has to elevate all these players.
Yep, well said. There you have it.
There you go. When we come back, we'll talk more. Did the Tennessee Titans do enough around Cam Ward? This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
It is 2 o'clock. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. The Tennessee Titans finished up the draft festivities with a post-draft press conference with General Manager Mike Bergonzi and President of Football Ops Chad Brinker, and they were asked about how quarterback Will Levis fits into the QB room with the arrival of Cam Ward.
It's a lot of value. I think, there's going to be competition in every room, and he elevates the competition in that room. That's what we're trying to do here as we get into training camp, is have the best 90-man roster, best competition in every room, and Will certainly provides that.
In other NFL news, Hunter Renfrow and the Carolina Panthers agreed to a one-year deal yesterday. Renfrow last played for the Raiders in 2023, where he had 25 catches for 255 yards. In the NBA, the Memphis Grizzlies saw their season come to an end over the weekend as they lost to the OKC Thunder 117-115 in Memphis as the Thunder completed the sweep. Memphis now begins its search for a new head coach after firing Taylor Jenkins earlier this month. For your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Store, 615-737-1045. Just real quick before we talk about the Cam Ward and have they built enough around them, I want to remind everybody, you got to join 104.5 The Zone for a live taping of The Install with Greg Cassell, hosted by Buck Rising with very special guest, Titans head coach Brian Callahan at the Analog at Hutton Hotel this Friday.
Yes.
Football and other efforts. Well, it starts at 7, but the real show starts at 6 p.m. with football and other efforts. Me and Stoney were out in the hallway hanging out. We'll be doing our review of the draft class and everything. Be there live as Greg Cassell breaks down the Tennessee Titans 2020. Don't record this one for the live read. 2025 draft and free agency class, along with Titans head coach Brian Callahan, as well as take questions from the audience and more. Thanks to Two Rivers Ford, Hattie B's, Monkey Shoulder Scotch Whiskey, Milagro Tequila, and Wholesale Supply. A limited number of tickets are still available. To purchase tickets, visit 1045thezone.com. We were talking all football all day from these players. They were talking about film room and all this stuff. I want to bring up just 2 points of stuff that I've heard and I've seen. I've heard that Femi Oladejo, the edge out of UCLA that they selected in the second round, he has been working with a pass rush specialist up in New York, I believe. So he's been working on finding more moves to add to his arsenal. So that's a good sign, because trust me, if you've watched the tape, it's a very concerning tape. But we'll get to that a little bit later on. But Cam Ward was throwing, and I guess he must be out in California, maybe working with Daryl Colbert, the quarterback coach he's been working with for a while, throwing it up until 2:33 in the morning. That man is wild. He's. I don't know if you've seen the clip, and you may have, because it's a fairly old clip early on in the process. But he talks about Shadur Sanders was asking him to come, sing a song or do a rap song with him or something. Cam Ward's like, nah, I'm all about football. When people Google me, I wanted to say Cam Ward, American football player. And I'm like, listen, the press conference itself, I mean, we played it on Friday, and me and Stoney, we had we could run through a wall at this point. And we were just like, man, if this dude fails, it'll be the most heartbreaking thing.
What did he say in the press conference?
Oh, man, he was just talking about how he approaches the game. He says, one of my traits is I'm an elite communicator. I'm a good teammate. For the team to be successful, I need to be a good teammate. But I also want players that are self-reliant. He talks about how the receivers need to be in the film room. He's in the film room. He's all ball. He stays even because he doesn't get in his head. He says a lot of my oh, man, where are my notes? I thought I had notes. The reason I can stay so calm is because I've had a lot of negatives in my life or a lot of moments in my life where I've been taught to stay calm. And I just think, like, everything that he said, and I know we haven't talked about the Warren Moon retirement number coming out of retirement and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of the stuff that he said, you could see everything that everybody has said in these articles on the radio about Cam Ward, the person, really shone through in that press conference.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that resonates throughout your team, and that's why you're the quarterback, and that creates the culture.
Yeah.
And that's why he's had success. I think that was a big notch on his belt there, is he had success at every level he went to, and he continued to get better, too, at the same time. That not only his leadership skills, but also the work he put in himself, just, throwing the football. So, yeah, we shall see, though. That's all thrown out the window now. You're in the NFL, but that's all you can depend on if you're scouting a player. So, naturally, we want to see if all that translates and he continues to elevate and continue to be the leader that he is, and I'm sure he will be. So we shall see. I mean, man, it's going to be a lot on his plate. It was kind of underwhelming, really, how the draft went about. And really, this is the first time I didn't see a lot of, just talk of actually Cam Ward being the number one pick.
Yeah.
And, I don't know why that is, even leading up to. I think everybody pretty much was pretty sure here, let alone in the NFL, who all cover, the NFL, that he was going to be the number one pick and the Titans weren't going to trade. So we were all pretty clear on that. I was probably the only guy that was 95%. So
to be fair, you did come down from 85%.
So, yeah, I moved 10%, but because you just never know.
Yeah.
So we shall see. But, man, I hope they got it right. And, he's a guy that you want to put trust in that can get it right. I think his characteristics tell it all. So, let alone also his play. So,
yeah, he just has this natural confidence about him. It doesn't feel forced or fake
or cocky.
It really doesn't. And he says that for him, it all starts in the film room, and you got to have receivers that push themselves. He says, listen, I've lost a lot. It kind of, the way that he said that kind of made it sound like he has lost stuff or lost out on things because of something in his personal life too. But when you're a 0-star recruit and you had to go to 6 different football camps just to go to Incarnate Word and get discovered, I mean, you go through a lot. And I mean, I look at it, and he has a 14-minute video up of his draft day leading to the number 1 overall pick, him getting picked. He's in his hotel room with his family, getting dressed, getting ready, talking. And you're just like, this dude is just, I mean, I don't know how to say it other than his EKG heart meter would just be like steady. I mean, it is remarkable. I've never seen I've never seen a young man like that in a long time come through this door. And so I do have high hopes. I am very excited about Cam Ward. And now it would be very hard for me to see a situation where he fails. And that's kind of where it's at. I don't care what number he wears. And he even said, I really don't care what number I wear. The worst thing that Warren Moon can do is say no. And he said, I would just switch to 7 if he said no. And Warren Moon recognized the path, the player, and the person. And he also kind of said that, hey, Tennessee Titans are going to be wearing the Oilers jersey. He said after the fact that they're not going to be wearing Oilers jerseys. So this is a Titans number 1, not an Oilers number 1. A little loophole, I guess. But he's just like this guy that I would go to battle with. I would go out there and get crushed by defenders if he asked me to, probably at this point. Maybe he'll only take 1 hit before I'm in the hospital. But I would go out there and do it for him.
Well, I mean, just already he's called every draft pick. I mean, so that's who he is. And if you talk, I talked to one of the guys on staff now there at Arizona, Joe Salavea, and he just glowed about him, a former teammate of mine. And he said, hey, man, you get what you get. And that's how he always is. Everything that you said, he said that with seeing him on field going through this. And so that made me feel really good about this pick. Whether he's successful, becomes an elite quarterback, good quarterback, average quarterback, I hope not a bust.
Right.
And you go, well, okay, well, we can win with that.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they've done enough around him.
Yeah, I look at it and I go, just looking at it, I go, do you understand why they took the quote-unquote 8th best player in the draft at number 1? Not just because he's also a quarterback, but yeah, but like you can see why that basically, essentially, they all knew about a month ago, right? I mean, pretty much everybody's saying they knew pretty much at the combine. You could see why. I could see why getting in front of him in an interview and saying that. And listen, I've said it a couple of times at the Christmas party. Kayla and Dawn, who have kind of interviewed them or been in the workings of people that have been around them, have both said that you don't understand. They're talking to me at the Christmas party. You don't understand. Cam Ward's legit. Well, just wait. You'll see. And I'm like, I get it now. What they told me in December, I get now in April.
Were they talking about legit? I mean, we don't know if he's legit.
We don't know, but like a legit leader, legit person.
That is no question. There is no question in that.
Yeah.
There's no question.
But, I just look at it and I go, there are paths for him to fail, for sure. And we'll see what he is. But, man, right now, I understand why they took him number 1 overall. And that's really the question at hand. Now, the question becomes, what's next and what the staff can do. Let's go to Rich, who wants to talk about Cam Ward. Rich, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Thank you. A couple of comments about Cam. First of all, I was very impressed with just how he showed himself and dressed, how he talks. But in adding to what you said, I think, in my mind, when it comes to a comp, the guy sitting next to you is who Cam reminds me of, his approach to the game. And I think that is a tremendous path to take, because I love hearing Blaine talk and love the way he did it, and that's who Cam sounds like to me.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's high praise regarding Cam Ward, because I mean,
well, I was Division II, so I think I got Cam. I was Division II. Freshman year.
There you go. There you go. I mean, it's just it's worth it for those that maybe have not listened to the opening presser. And listen, not a lot of players can win the presser. Now, you don't win games because of a presser or not, because there are players that have come through that have had terrible pressers and gone on to have good careers. But man, that one got me.
Well, you knew he was savvy with the media when he did the video game stuff.
Oh yeah, he knew exactly what to say.
You knew that he has some somewhat humor, but also he understands how to talk to the media and get them all riled up in a fun way and in a serious way. And hey, man, this is what I'm all about. At the end of the day, I'm still a growing young man, and hey, I'm gonna have fun with this, but I'm gonna put all the work in. You can depend on me, and hopefully I come out on top. I mean, that's just he what does he have to lose at this point, man? People counting him out coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, out of high school.
I think that's just his attitude. He says, I can control basically the vibes I got. I can control the player that I am. You guys can't.
Right.
Nobody else can tell me the player I can be.
Is that something I used to say?
It feels like it. It feels like you.
I can't control
Sounds like you.
I can't control all that other stuff, but guess what? I control what I do.
You control yourself. Like that, because that's what he says, right? I mean, like he kind of alludes to that right here. First off, it starts in the film room. Who's that sound like? The man across from me. But he says, got to have receivers that push themselves. He goes, I'll do what I can, but I'll be a good teammate. You ain't got to worry about that. But we got to have receivers that push themselves.
Yeah, I think all these guys, that's why I said the characteristics part. They got all that right about these dudes, because you see it, everybody, you could see when you're evaluating these guys that these guys have high character and they're going to put the work in.
Yeah,
they're going to be, going to meet to throw for the football. They're going to work after the time frame and not, well, my time's up. My time to go. Right. No, that's not none of these guys.
Look at you. Go watch Io Manor play. The Stanford wide receiver they traded up
just
for.
to watch him go just kill Travis Hunter.
Yeah. Ooh. Not only just that, but watch him when there is a run play on the goal line.
The blocking.
And the play's not even coming to him. You wouldn't even be able to tell the runner wasn't coming to his side, because he's going to go and destroy whoever's in front of him. That's the kind of guys you want out there. A lot of people don't understand. I know a lot of people made fun of Mike Vrabel's time here when he said, well, anytime he talked about wide receiver, well, he run blocks really well first. That's like the first word he always said. Io Manor is like a Vrabel dream, because, I mean, that dude is one of the best blocking wide receivers I've ever seen. When we come back, we're going to talk about the wide receivers. We're going to talk about the tight ends, the offensive line. Have the Tennessee Titans done enough around Cam Ward to at least put him in a position to succeed on a certain level his rookie year? This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 is the number. We're talking the Tennessee Titans draft, and we want to hear from you. Do you think the Tennessee Titans have done enough between the offseason, the draft, and undrafted free agency to surround Cam Ward with the best available tools? Because I think that's the key word, right? You can't just go out and get all these different players. You have to, with the best available tools, were they able to go out and put together a team that will at least have Cam Ward not on his backside?
We hope they fix that in the offseason with free agency. With Junior, Dan Moore, right?
But let's hope that, they've done enough to provide him weapons in not only just the backfield, but also, pass catching, not just wide receivers, also tight end. Does he have enough around him to put together a rookie campaign? Because he is the number 1 overall pick and he is a quarterback. That usually means you're a good bet to be rookie of the year. So have they done enough? You know what I'm saying? Have they done enough to at least achieve that regardless of the wins and losses? Do they have the right tools in place? And I would say that there's at least enough here to not hurt his development. But I'm not saying that there's enough here to maybe kickstart it like a Jaden Daniels or a CJ Stroud.
So would this be a disappointment if he didn't win Rookie of the Year on offense?
I mean, Ashton Jeanty would be my pick. But yeah, I mean, like, let's
they
say
won
that
7 games.
That he should be probably Rookie of the Year. I mean, because you're the quarterback, right? Yeah. Remember when A.J. Brown should have won the year that Kyler Murray won it, but you're the quarterback. Yeah. And now, like, listen, if you get outperformed by Jackson Dart, that is definitely a disappointment. But at the end of the day, you would think that's between right now. If I was to have a crystal ball, I would say that it should be between Ashton Jeanty and Cam Ward for that Rookie of the Year.
Okay, now who do you project will be the starting receivers and tight end?
Well, that
then will tell you if he has a shot of winning it.
I am going out on a limb here,
okay, because we don't know what these players will be, so everything's on a limb.
I think Gunnar Helm's going to be tight end 1 when it's all said and done. And I do think that's going to be heading into the regular season, not like at the end of the regular season. I think Gunnar Helm is going to be tight end 1 because he can do both things. He can block, he can catch, and that allows you to have him on the field, a guy that is a red zone threat. That was the red zone threat for Texas, a guy that can find the soft spots in his zone, but also can block. But that also allows you to use Chig as like a real big slot wide receiver and move him around. He doesn't have to stay in and block. He can chip maybe on the other side of Dan Moore than go out for a pass. But I do think that Gunnar Helm likely will end up being tight end 1 because he's also this staff's guy. Chig, not really this staff's guy. So I kind of look at it that way too. So I start there because also speaking of football guy, do you remember at the combine the guy had his ankle all ballooned up after he ran the 40, but still did everything in the draft?
No.
In the combine? Gunnar Helm.
Oh,
I'll show you those pictures. I think I can find him at the break.
Oh, tough guy, huh?
Yeah. Oh, he's pretty tough. I mean, that ankle was about as big as Jackson's head.
And that's pretty big.
That was a crazy stray. I'm not going to lie.
We hadn't heard from you a lot today, so I just figured I'd throw you a lifeline there.
What's up, buddy? Had fun on Saturday with you.
Yeah, we had a good time on Saturday. But so I go Gunnar Helm. I'm going to go Tyler Lockett, Calvin Ridley.
Where are they at? Outside, inside?
Yeah, I think, Calvin Ridley's the outside.
Okay.
I don't care about the Z or the X or anything, but I think he's outside. I think I'm going to go Io Manor on the opposite. So I think Tyler Lockett's in the slot, Io Manor out there. Then DK comes in as like the 4th wide receiver in and out of the lineup. I think they'll rotate DK and Io Manor a lot. And then, we got the running backs. I think Kyle Mullins is just your goal line guy. I think he's your red zone guy. He's your closer. I don't know if we said this when we talked about him in our running back discussion a couple of weeks ago, but he had the most carries of any running back in the 4th quarter at Michigan and averaged 5.7 yards per carry in the 4th quarter. He was kind of like their closer. And so I could see him being that guy to take those carries. Hopefully the Titans are ahead in a lot of games, but take those carries away from Tony Pollard. So,
and that means, Chestnut's going to get cut.
oh yeah. I'm not, listen, no offense to Julius Chestnut, but I'm putting my money, I'm buying all the Mullins stock right now. So, and then of course you have the offensive line. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm kind of like, okay, well, this is a C+, B- kind of rookie crew, because the offensive line should theoretically be a lot better.
Yeah. Well, I would lean in, you got a rookie quarterback. Let's first start there. So you got to lean into the running game. So that lends to this Mullins kid who, man, he is a physical runner. Man, he was running through, players. And it was like, oh, he's in, high school and he's just the best player on the field. He was doing this in the Big Ten. So I was really amazed because I thought the other guy, 7 there, I forgot his Edwards. Yeah. It was fast. But this guy here, his physicality was off the charts, and he can be a special teamer, and he's, offset of different than the other 2 backs that are on the roster. So I think he's going to have some form of impact there. But the wide receivers and the tight end here, I'm going to just give you my scouting report on them. I watched all these guys.
By the way, I forgot that Van Jefferson's on this team.
Yeah,
so,
Van Jefferson.
I guess he would be the starting guy opposite Calvin Ridley.
So Ridley.
Maybe. I don't know.
Jefferson and
Lockett. I don't know if Jefferson is that unbeatable or that secure in his spot.
Well, he's in a 1-year deal, so if the guys, stand out more than him, obviously, I think
I guess
so.
I do need to probably give him the bump right now.
Right, yeah, Ben Jefferson, let's not forget Ravenwood, great.
Yeah.
But here's what I saw I'm going to start with the DK kid from Florida. And I know he ran a 4.34 or some 4.3 number at the combine, which is fantastic. He is a blazer. What do you run? Were you looking at it now?
Yeah, you were right.
4.34. Okay, yeah. I didn't know if he ran 4.34 or 4.38. I can't remember. Now, I remember watching him because they kept talking about Mertz and him. Both transferred from Wisconsin after he was there for 3 years, I think. And so he transferred in and, he had the same production, even more so there at Florida. But at 42 catches, 783 yards. He ran a 4.34. So when I watch him, I want to see it. And guess what, guys? I did not see it. I did not see him play at 4.3. 4.3 is a blaze of lightning. Matter of fact, I'm going to quantify this for everybody who now can see. That's Tyreek Hill level speed. I do not see.
On the field.
On the field. I do not see that form of speed. I do see, 4.44 type speed.
Would you put that with like a Jalen Waddle, or is Jalen Waddle still faster? Because I know he's also considered like one of the fastest wide receivers in the NFL.
I'm not sure, but what I'm getting at, more so not translating to player, is he's not playing to that speed.
Yeah.
He is fast. Let's don't get me wrong. I think he's more of a slot guy in the National Football League. I'm not saying
played
he can't
a lot
play.
of slot.
They did. They
last
motioned
year.
him a lot and moved around. He was outside too. So I wanted to see more. The reason why I say that is because I think he only had like 2 or 3 touchdowns. And I'm like, well, if you fast like that in college, you supposed to have more than that. I don't remember what he had, but I'm looking for 6, 7, 8.
There's a lot you can put on the blame of the quarterback play, but then again, you still need to have better stats. You know what I'm saying?
He was getting clipped up every time. It's like, oh, that was the time you should be scoring. So I wanted to see that. Here's what I'm going to say. I like the kid. Here's a difference in speed. And what I saw was he has long speed.
Yeah.
Long speed means it takes him a minute to get going, but when he's at like 20, 30 yards, he then has another level of speed.
Yeah.
Explosive players are fast immediately.
I think he has a problem with his pacing, is what I kind of saw.
That's what I didn't see. And those guys are the ones that have more success in the league, the explosiveness early, and you can kind of hang on to that speed when you get long. Long speed means you're on the outside and the ball is in the air and they're running stride for stride with the DB, and all of a sudden he pulls away. That's what he looks like to me when I say the speed didn't translate, is because I didn't see explosiveness.
Yeah.
But he is fast. So, and I'm not sure what he can be in the league being fast like that. But he's a productive player, and I did like him. I think he'll be, here's what I'm going to give him to. He's a faster Tyler Boyd. That's what he is.
There you go.
That's what he is.
I want to ask you this because something that Cam Ward said on his press conference was that his favorite, I guess, route to throw to someone asked him, I guess, his favorite route that he likes his wide receivers to run, or favorite something, his favorite play design or something, but he said switch verts.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, he says switch verts, and I'm like, that makes sense for DK, right? Because like that's one that he starts under, he switches with someone, then he
On the
goes
outside,
deep.
and
And
goes,
goes,
we call that scissors.
Scissors,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But I think, to me, I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. I guess my issue with this core of pass catchers is that it's either players that have under-delivered, players that are on the wrong side of their career, and players that got to develop. And that's kind of like that's not the best thing to go with. But Tyler Lockett, great leader, knows how to play the game, can be a good mentor. Calvin Ridley, we'll see what he does at this next step, but he's also on the wrong side of 30 at this point. It's just like I look at it and I go, I feel like they've done enough on paper. It's almost like they've done enough in quantity, but not necessarily quality.
Well, I think Ridley still has a little ways to go, even though he's 30. He's just on a different level of playing field as far as his speed. None of these guys can equate to nothing that Ridley can do, and even on his worst day. And I'm going to just say that just on speed, we're talking about speed. I think what I said, Boyd, he's a faster version of Boyd, and that can be a productive player in this league, and he's good at route running. He is really good and polished at route running, so I like that. Now, going to what's his name, Ellick, the Stanford kid.
Ayo Manor.
Yeah, Ayo Manor.
Ayo Manor. I just said it wrong.
Ayo Manor. Yeah, right. Big body. He looks like he's going to be more of a possession receiver, and then that's what he's Canadian born. So he has size speed ratio, but I didn't see anything special about him. I never saw him do well or anybody even go against him at times every now and then against press coverage. So I can't tell if he's quick, twitchy, off the line. Looked like they were scared because he's kind of a physical presence there. So I'd love to see him and the guy that they drafted, what's the Harris kid, California. I want to see what he did against him from Stanford. They played each other now still or no?
Well, I don't even know if Marcus Harris would be the guy that would be on him. But
right, yeah.
I can look that up.
At some point, they should have. So he's nothing special. He's just a good, solid player. I know he had a 15-yard average, but only game that I saw him just like look great was Travis Hunter. It's almost like he said, oh, today I'm about to show you I am that dude. And he was their number one target there for Stanford. Now, they had quarterback issues, by the way. I saw 3 different freaking quarterbacks play in game, whether they were hurt or rotating guys or whatever. So that could have been an issue, too. But I think he can be just a good receiver. I think he's an outside guy. And then him, I really liked him. I watched him play. Great natural hands catcher, a great route runner, tough, athletic, too, by the way. He's a converted wide receiver. Now, weakness, though, he's a guy that just gets in their way in blocking. I love to see him double down and block some of these defensive ends in the NFL with the way he was doing, which was a passing offense, Sarkisian. So we shall see. But I do agree with you, though. I think he will be,
and that's not really saying a lot about him as much as it is maybe an indictment on the tight end room, to be honest.
What I do see about all of them, which I really love, I see versatility in their game.
Yeah.
Where you can't hone in on as a defensive guy, oh, he's in here, they're going to pass. Oh, he's an outside guy, he's only going to do this. So I really like that about all of them. I think you can move all these pieces around.
Which in turn keeps the defense guessing, which in turn helps the rookie quarterback.
Yep.
So it really becomes... then how does Brian Callahan deploy all these weapons? And how does he choose to scheme up? How does he fit the scheme around Cam Ward? Because he struggled fitting the scheme around Will Levis and around Mason Rudolph. I think we can both agree that we've had many conversations where we felt the scheme didn't really change. He maybe added a few wrinkles here and there, but the scheme did not change. Because when you see certain players go in, I can remember when Jalen Hurts went in for Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson, after the first game, changed everything around Jalen Hurts real quick in a week. It can happen. You just got to be willing to do it. And so now is what I thought was great about Jory Epstein was that she said that what's great about this new NIL era is that all these different all the film. You have now Cam Ward in 3 different schemes. Not only do you see what he was really good at and see how he progresses as a player, but you also see in 3 different schemes, what is he not good at?
Yeah.
So now you can cut all that out of the offense and focus on what is the best version of Cam Ward that we can get. And that's where it falls onto the coaching staff, is that while the players are responsible, they got to develop, they got to stay dedicated to the game. They can't get lazy or complacent or anything like that. It's all about now, okay, Mike Bergonzi, who Chad Brinker said is responsible and led this entire offseason process and this entire draft. Hint, hint, just in case things go south, we know who someone's blaming. And he led everything. And now he's went and grocery shopped what he thought after spending 2 weeks with the staff in depth, going over the scheme, the players they're looking for. These are the players he drafted. So now it's up to Brian Callahan, this team, to do that. And I get a little concerned with this staff in the sense of we've seen them not really fit anything to any of the players last year. Kind of struggle. You know, they were kind of doing round hole, square peg stuff. And then I want to see them develop. But these are players that do need development, right? Like Io Manor. He has an injury history. He tore his PCL in senior year of high school, tore his meniscus, ACL, and MCL in his freshman year of college. Now, he hasn't missed a game since, but that's still concerning. But he doesn't do anything spectacular or special. That's why he went in round 4. Because his tape showed a guy he's good. He's not day 2 worthy. And because that's something we talked about. He's fine. Now you got Chimere Dike, who has trouble with pacing, his route tree. How much of that is the Florida offense? He's good at kick returner and punt returner, but can he take that next step? And you chose him by your own actions. You said Chimere Dike is ranked higher than Io Manor on our board. That's our guy. We're taking him over Jalen Royals. We're taking him over obviously Io Manor, but there is another wide receiver I can't remember. We're taking him over other positions, right? Other players at other positions, too. We're saying Chimere Dike is our top-rated player at the top of the 4th round, a guy that many projected to go in the 200s. You took him there. But he needs developing. But, that's for a lot of these guys. So this is why, again, it comes down to the staff, because they felt that these were the best guys available. Now it's time for the staff to take them to the next level.
Well, I think the staff can only do so much. And I do agree with your premise. But here's why I think, Bergonzi talked about their big, fast, tough, smart work ethic, their captains. But one word that was missing, but is all characterized by what he said, is they're all driven. And once you have someone driven with those kind of characteristics, you end up these players being better than what they project. And I think that is what they're trying to hit on a home run with. Now these guys become productive starters, whether it's year 1 or year 2, because these guys are driven. Somebody always counted them out, or they had to prove something, that they got that chip. Even Cam Ward, the number 1 pick of the draft. So I think that's what they're banking on, because that is a characteristic you can't say, hey, we can never take that away, and this guy's going to work. Even if he isn't playing early, he's going to stay driven to keep watching film, to keep getting better, and eventually be ready when he gets his shot. And that's all you can count on. So I think that's where I think they're hitting, because all these guys, I think he was hit dead on the head. Are you going to see the characteristics all match up the same with all these players, whether it was the first pick or the last pick?
In between DK and Io Manor, there was Dante Thornton. This is in order, by the way.
Right, because he went 4th round?
Yeah. So it went DK at 103, Thornton at 108, Arian Smith out of Georgia, this was a real high one, too, went at 108.
That's number 11, that fast guy.
Yeah, 110.
Ooh.
And then Jalen Lane of Virginia Tech went at 128. Jalen Royals at 133, and then it was Io Manor went at 136. And you still had guys like Torrey Horton out there, all 3 Colorado wide receivers, Tez Johnson, the smaller kid from Oregon, just to name a few. I'm not saying these guys are better than
right. They were available.
but they were just out there.
Any of those? Some of those guys didn't get drafted, did they? Or did they?
The only Colorado wide receiver that did not get drafted was Will Shepard.
Man, the Titans should be bringing him in.
Yeah. He's already signed somewhere. I can't remember where he signed. He signed somewhere.
Man. Yeah, I liked him at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
But he's an X. He's the outside guy. That's it, because he's long.
Yeah.
So,
but I do wonder, like, again, how much of what we can say about these two wide receivers is quarterback play. I don't really like using that as a true excuse. Some of it could be scheme. But again, you can evaluate a player in a vacuum. And it, like you said, DK doesn't play as fast as his 40 time says. He has trouble with pacing. Io Manor doesn't do anything exceptional. So where does the help come for Cam Ward? So we'll talk about that when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
For many of you who have lived here a long time, you already know Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee area for European car repair needs now for 26 years. And we've all gotten to watch them grow. And I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, we're now proud to announce the 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix on Mount Juliet Road, right across the street from Dairy Queen. And Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. Pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in the barn of a backyard of a single-wide trailer and now grow to 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. And at Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. I always tell them Blaine, Jojo.
We love being part of the moments that matter, which is why we're announcing employee pricing for everyone. You pay what we pay. Employee pricing at Two Rivers Ford. Locally owned, American made.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 is the number. Tomorrow, we'll be joined by, of course, Coach Mack. We'll also talk about Femi Oladejo and Kevin Winston Jr. as well. We'll break those prospects. We're going to try to give all the prospects a little bit of time here because there's a couple of undrafted free agents also I looked at and I'm like, I gotta find the tape on these guys because these guys are pretty interesting. But something that came out this weekend, and I'm not talking about the prank calls or the Shadur Sanders fall and all that kind of stuff. Well, what I thought was interesting was that a couple of days ago, I saw a tweet, and it was, I think, about the Dallas Cowboys or something like that, but it was talking about that now players are being taken off the board for not loving football, taken off the board completely. Because of this new NIL era, players are getting money and scouts, regimes, NFL regimes, teams, are thinking that it has been very easy for them to figure out who's in it for the money and who's in it for the football. And there are now, and that's kind of something that ties into this group, is that this really feels like a group that does love football. Femi Oladejo, very raw prospect. But that dude is out there crashing his body into everywhere and everything, trying to make something happen. He has no clue, no plan, but he's going out there trying to do stuff.
Two guys pulled. He hit both of the USC linemen, and I'm like, boom, 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 and they made the tackle. I was like, I don't even know if he knew where he was.
Like a pinball.
Right.
Like, I mean, like, it's ridiculous. I will say that. Like, but to do that, to put your body in that kind of harm's way, to just attack, even if you're attacking wildly like a caged animal, you love football. Io Manor obviously loves football. The way that you see him run block. You look at Cam Ward, there's nobody's story that better illustrates loves football.
No doubt.
So like,
that's why I said, and you don't know, that means the guys unpredictable how successful they'll be because now they can dedicate all their time to football. No classwork, no distraction. And now
they have a little bit of resources, right?
Like, they have some money, and then that may drive them even more. Not the other direction.
Well, what I'm saying is, so I think what they're doing, from what I've heard, the Tennessee Titans are going to invest in the same VR system that Jaden Daniels and the Commanders used, that we've heard Brock Purdy used for Cam Ward. I've heard, obviously, when you have money, you can get better trainers, nutritionists, all that kind of stuff. So when I say they got money, that means they got money to put towards football. To bettering themselves, to better their body. Like, how much does Derrick Henry spend on his body? Right? Like, he spends like, $250,000, $300,000 a year just on his body.
Yeah, I never reached that level.
Yeah, it was insane.
I wasn't running back, though.
Yeah. But, like, you talk about what you saw from Kal-El Mullins, where he's just looking to run at people.
Oh, my God. It was...
and that's his linebacker mentality. But, I mean, like, again, you're running into people because you want to send a message and you love football. Like, I feel like violent on-the-field players are those guys that just play with reckless abandon. Now, you will obviously want to harness that, but those players that play with reckless abandon love football.
Yeah.
They want to go out there and hit somebody because they love football. And that's what this team has. I just find it very interesting that we're just now, it feels like, at least publicly, the NFL's comfortable saying that they have players that go off their board, not because of production, not because of injuries, not because of off-field concerns, but because they don't love football. And that's going to be really interesting to see because then that changes the whole dynamic of predicting who goes in the draft, right? Because that's something we don't see.
Wait, what they're talking about is, once you get the bread, you get the bag, now you kind of sit back and kind of rest on your laurels, and then you're not as, let's say, aggressive natured at whatever position it is because you're not as hungry.
Yeah.
You got some, your cheddar, it feels good. So you get to see that right away. But to me, how, a player plays really tells you that.
Yeah.
And all these guys have that. There wasn't a time that you said, oh, dang, man, why wasn't he, he wasn't hustling. You don't see that at it.
Like Luther Burden, you could see that on some of these. Now, Luther Burden landed in a fantastic spot.
Where did he hit up?
Chicago.
Oh.
He's going to be their Amon-Ra St. Brown. You know, that guy that plays in the slot, and he's got Caleb Williams there.
He went second round. What
Yeah.
What pick was
he went, I can tell you real
the
quick.
Bears are probably in the middle of the
He went
second, maybe?
39 overall.
Okay.
So he would have been there at 32 or 35 if the Titans decided to stick and pick, which they didn't, which I don't blame them. But I thought it was interesting that Jaden Higgins, your boy, went before Luther Burden. He went to the Texans. So the Texans have
They stack it.
both Iowa State wide receivers, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, who both rank in the top 10 in terms of the best wide receivers that don't drop the ball.
I'm telling you, those dudes can play now. I mean, we could talk about Iowa State all you want to.
Yeah.
But when you turn on the tape, you go, whoa, hey, man, who are these dudes? And I'm talking about both, and they're different.
Right.
They totally different player type styles. So,
But I think that's why you see a guy like Isaac Teslaw go so high. A guy out of Arkansas that nobody really knew about until the Senior Bowl, and you saw him go out there and whip everybody and give it 110%. Then you go watch the tape, and you're like, oh,
No,
110%.
we talked about him because I said they have him, they had Jackson, they had the quarterback and the running back. And I said, if these dudes play well, Tennessee's going to get beat. And they did.
Yeah. But, like, that's a guy that clearly gets moved up the boards because there's potential. There's already talent because we saw it at the Senior Bowl. You see it on the film. And a guy with big football character, supposedly. So, like, it's going to be really interesting because tomorrow when we talk about Femi Oladejo, we're going to talk about these wide receivers, right? Because after Femi got drafted, here's who goes off the board almost immediately. Trey Harris, Jack Besh, the guy that you want to move tight end.
Right.
Kyle Williams, Isaac Teslaw, Pat Bryant, and Jalen Noel. So 6 wide receivers went between the Femi Oladejo pick and the pick of Kevin Winston. And I would say a lot of these guys are guys that were high on the Tennessee Titans board. But it's just so interesting. And then we'll talk about that when we're on here tomorrow because I find that so interesting that they had Femi Oladejo ranked that high as their best player available. And we're going to try to figure out why. Our concerns. We're also going to talk about Kevin Winston as well. Hey, great day back. Glad to have you across from me again. Stoney was all right, but I always like to bouncing my ideas off of you. You keep me grounded. Me and Stoney, we fly too high sometimes. All right, that will do it for us. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. 3HL's up next, and in the meantime,
and in between time, peace.